Okay, welcome back, everyone. The escalators have turned back on. People are finding their seats. Oh, there's a cute dog walking by. Focus. Okay. So I'm really thrilled to enter our second half of the evening and welcome Catherine St. Denis, who is our poetic opener this evening. A really wonderful poet. She's been knocking our socks off at our open mics all season, and I'm so happy to have her reading as an opener now. Catherine St. Denis is an emerging writer whose work has been most recently featured in Rattle, Rattle and the League of Canadian Poets chapbook, You Are a Flower Growing Off the Side of a Cliff. Her writing has been shortlisted for the Fiddlehead's Poetry Contest, the Vent's Creative Nonfiction Contest, and PRISM's Creative Nonfiction Contest. She enjoys striking up wild rumpuses in her job as a teacher-librarian. Please welcome Catherine St. Denis.
I can do that. Thank you so much, Zoe. Hi, Julie. It's such an honor to be here, sharing the floor with people who read at the open mic, and then also Rhona. And I was telling Rhona this morning I got a Facebook friendship request from a poet named Bert Alman, who lives in Alberta and was a professor at the University of Alberta. Back when I was 17, I was in his class, and he saw the poster for this day, and he remembered my name, and he got in touch, which was lovely. But he also told me that he's already friends with Rhona, and that she was also in his class. So we have this lovely University of Alberta connection going on here. So while Rhona is a full-fledged, incredible poet, I have just been emerging lately after a couple of decades working as a teacher, and I want to read to you a set of poems that surround a theme that is near and dear to my heart. Years ago, my daughter lost her father to a fentanyl overdose, and that spurred on the first poem that I'll read to you tonight. But then I also decided I wanted to write a little bit more around that epidemic, which has killed more people than COVID over the same time period since COVID began. 5 years after Joe overdosed on fentanyl. In October, I teach the zombie dance from Thriller for PE. Tweens are fascinated by death and Michael Jackson, his hilarious pelvis. They begin by lying on the varnished floor, tongues lolling and necks craning, searching out friends to share mangled pronouncements. The beat drops, and then comes the gangly rise from the grave, all awkward elbows and one-shouldered shrugs. A synthesized fanfare cues 29 students to start lurching forward, knees and eyes askew, the undead in gym shorts and tees, shoelaces bobbing. They raise clawed hands, and the ones with rhythm really get it, stomping in circles with leaden calves, grapevining in lockstep, torsos awry. And even the kids who mess up look convincing. A bumbling confusion, the opposition of bodies controlled by hindbrain viruses or adolescence. With all this movement and melody, with all these pulsing veins of bass, how could they possibly know how it ends? Sitting on a love seat with one arm around your 6-year-old, telling her about daddy. Wanting to somehow do it right, as if such news can be spread gently over a child like bubbles in the bath. Should you have turned the television off first? Never mind. At this point, there will be few tears. It is not until the cat passes 2 years later that the sobs will rise, fierce and wet. This is how a life ends, spilling all the way past the rim of time. We were buying cuffed boots and a musketeer hat at the thrift shop as he died. My kid grinned and proclaimed to be using the one-tooth maneuver on her pumpkin that night. The next morning, Joe's mom slackened on the sidewalk like a marionette, stringing her face to the palm of the sky. He was nowhere, everywhere. At the winter concert, our daughter belted "O Hanukkah" Ethel Merman style. Camping, she found a heavy moon snail, held it rippling in her hands, wondrous, alive. A substitute teacher insisted she make a Father's Day card. Our old cat was ailing. The vet prepared the needle that would uncouple her from her pain. Rising swells of people uncoupled themselves again and again. Now in this middle school gym, preteens are mocking death, their tilted grins raised to the ceiling, their stilted bodies pretending that even after the gruesome end, there's a hunger that lingers, a world to upend. My printer's screwed up. I have to line up the pages so I can see them. All right, here we go. After the funeral, his mother showed me a picture of him as a preschooler, sleeping, torso bent over the bed while his shoed feet still rested on the floor. So cute, the way his little face smooshed against the quilt, the way his arms angled beside him as if he'd been told, "Hands up!" So cute the way sleep hijacks children. During a mouthful of lasagna, as they push a tricycle's pedal, between strokes of the dog's back, or, as she told me, after they've been naughty and sent to their room to cry. So cute, I thought, this picture of when he first started learning how to press his perfect cheek against shame, to slip from between the arms of consciousness, to do it alone. Wingless creatures. Before I read this one, I just want to preface it by saying, I think there's a misunderstanding that people who struggle with drug addiction are the people that we see on the streets, and that is actually not true. However, I decided to write this poem about what I see on the streets because it's related and the risks are high. So I just want you to know that a lot of people with full-time jobs and families and people with homes and people who have privilege and people who, are in what we think are safe cocoons are still at risk of dying. Wingless creatures. Driving downtown, I try to keep my vision honed for folks who might cross into traffic, their crooked gaits and side-locked jaws, urgent as foxes with injured paws still clamped within the teeth of rusted traps. I'm not saying that they're animals. Rather, we are all animals, restrained. Some drivers honk and gesture at the garbage-bagged feet, the burden of shopping carts hauled across 6 lanes. But I think I understand. Disregarding danger is one way of being free. Once I ran into the road. I was 7 and just knew I could make it across in time. The car knocked me right out of my shoes. Airborne, all I could think was, I'm flying. It was nighttime. The headlights grazed my brief body. I rolled as I landed, the force on my outstretched arm snapping my collarbone, gravel embedding itself in my knees, as if during my descent, I had knelt for a moment to pray. Today, a man threw a garbage bin into the busy road, retrieved it over and over to lob it again like a boulder of rage. Still, he was invisible. Everywhere, the metropolis is tilting at steep angles, people sliding down city blocks, fingernails breaking. Spectators turn away thinking, somebody must do something. We saw a man prone on the sidewalk, his pants around his knees. He had the blonde curls of an angel, but I could spy no wings. In his open palm, a glass pipe held galaxies. My mother witnessed it all from the car that night I ran into the road. How unbearable it must have been for her to love me as I sprinted and soared. So there's an epigraph to the next poem, and it's an idiom that I hate. The poem is called The Door, and the epigraph is, when one door closes, somewhere another one opens. I know how to picture a door, painted red for luck or welcome, hinged into a modest heritage house that nobody can afford. I can imagine a Japanese paper door that shushes the already quiet room as it slides, or a stone slab door pushed into place by the shoulders of grieving disciples. Even a revolving door, flinging rounds of power-suited people through its gates toward the capitalist war. Corrugated sheet metal doors, corroding and sharp as talons. Tavern doors, swinging at the backs of cowboys, come to hear the piano once more. Palm frond doors that let in the snakes, and trap doors that permit only dark. Doors slammed in lovers' slack-mouthed faces, doors with dents in the shape of fists. Doors inset with arrays of jewels, the airlocked doors of spaceships. Dollhouse doors and barn doors and doors that have come unhinged. Iron doors, wheelchair accessible doors, and hippie doors with their beaded fringe. Senseless Alice in Wonderland doors that force you to shrink and grow. Cellar doors and freezer doors with their aromas strange and stale. Post-tornado doors still standing alone after the rest of the house has torn and flown. Twilight Zone doors and locker doors and doors of sliding glass, riveted iron doors and tall teak doors with carvings of peacocks, their tails rising in broad arcs, doors that whistle and doors that wail, doors that are permanently boarded up, the tiny doors at the bases of trees behind which fairies may creep. Doors you leave just a little ajar while the colicky baby finally sleeps. Yes, I know how to picture a door. Front doors on which you knock and nobody comes to answer. Unopened doors, baffling doors, doors where your shadow is shown. The door behind which your friend is departing himself and you turn away unknowing.